You're all good. You're all good. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning. Beautiful morning, folks. Welcome. Welcome. Man, this is kind of an emotional time, to be honest with you. The final Stay Hired Sunday of the new year. We've been on quite a journey together. If it's your first time tuning in, let me introduce myself real quick. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time published author and educator. And what I do is I take the lessons from the game of football, the teamwork lessons, and I apply them to businesses. So you as business owners, are moving in a cohesive team. And I have my good friend with me, man, a partner. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode that debuted this past Monday. Miss Kimberly, welcome to the final one of the year.
I know it is emotional. I watched the our first episode and I was like, wow,
Yes.
look how much we've done. So, but it's exciting. Glad to be here.
Yes, and we have quite a topic today just to show you guys our level of commitment. Both of us are traveling. Like I just mentioned, we're doing this literally through 72 hours before 2025 gets here. Every single excuse in the book to have just packed it in and said we're not doing it. But again, because of the focus, because of what we promised, because our word means something, and it's important that we do make sure the word means something nowadays. We're here to serve you all. So today's topic, we are going to dive into, especially, I mean, such a timely discussion, seeing that we are approaching 2025 when a lot of people get really excited. They have all sorts of resolutions, all sorts of plans, all sorts of goals, all sorts of grand things that you want to do. And you may have the budget, you may have the money to cover certain things over the years. What I decided to do was I actually kept attended two bowl games. So I'm on my way. I'll be going to my second bowl game this next Tuesday, but I'm just leaving Orlando, so forgive me if I'm sound a little jet lagged because I literally drove in here this morning, did a workout, and then started doing this. But I decided to go to Orlando for the Pop-Tart Bowl about 2 days ago for during Christmas. I remember buying the tickets on Christmas because I realized from Orlando to St. Pete to Tampa is going to be an easier drive. So drove from Miami to Orlando, watched the games the whole 7 hours because they had a whole thing going on before the game, and then the 3 hours for the game. I sat in traffic. They had to get here to do this. So, the reason I decided to go is because I knew I was going to meet my kind of people, fellow college football fans, the folks that sponsor these bowl games. I knew I was going to rub shoulders with certain folks, get some contacts, all that kind of stuff. And I'm bringing all of this up for a reason. It's because when it comes to my business, I spend money on being a vendor. I spend money to set up tables and, put my books out. And there's been plenty of times, more often than not, where I've spent that money and it hasn't really produced an ROI for me. It hasn't
Mhm.
been something that I would go back and do. So before those times, luckily, unfortunately for me, I didn't have a HR professional to advise me on these things. So, the topic in which we're going to be discussing is making sure that you're spending your money the right way and knowing the difference between doing something from a leisure standpoint versus doing something that's actually going to improve your business and be beneficial for not only you but all your employees. So, that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Oh, it's so true. When I was driving, I did the video saying we're changing the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are dedicated, and that's, I think, it shows to the professionals that we are, that it doesn't matter if we have to switch times, it doesn't matter if we have to adjust, do it outside, do it inside, do it. I've done a couple episodes for my sister's house. Just keep your word because that's what you're known by. So, great points. And I'm excited to dive into this topic.
Yes. All right. So more specifically, when it comes to events, when you are in the HR world, all right, you're gonna have to educate me a little bit about how this works because I look at it from the entrepreneurial lens to say, look, if I got it in the budget, I'm paying for it. If I have the money to go buy the tickets and drive to Orlando, I'm doing it. All right, I don't have to go and
Mhm.
ask for approval or anything like that. But when you're talking about it from an HR perspective, can you educate us a little bit about how that spending occurs? Like, let's say it was a client or a company that you're working with that says, oh man, this 5K would be a great event for us because we can do X, Y, and Z. How can you, like, how do those conversations go when it comes to where they're going to spend their money on events and being in events?
So, I mean, it's a great question because
Mhm.
my first question is, what's your budget for the whole year? Because if your budget for the whole year is 5K, doing one event, you've there's your budget, right? So
Right.
it better be a good one. So
Hmm.
the very first thing is make sure that you allot, especially for recruiting, for employee engagement. A lot of times those buckets are empty.
Hmm.
That happens more often than not, but you know you're going to spend it. Every year you have to hire people. Every year you have to work on engagement. So be proactive and make sure you put funds in there. And
Hmm.
then you really, to your point, to really get into ROI is so important. Job fairs, for example, when you're recruiting, not the best spend if depends on what you're looking for. But
Wow.
they're not the best spend. You don't get the
You
return on
you just
investment.
educated you. I mean, all right, you're gonna have to. I might have to pause you there because that's something that's gonna teach a whole lot. Because I would think it's the completely different though. Because the job fairs are usually when you're going and you're finding people. Why is that not the best spend?
Where are people these days? So if I'm hiring, say I'm in Virginia and I'm
Hmm.
looking to hire in Florida, and I say, okay, I'm going to go to Florida. Well, you have my salary, you have my travel expenses. Okay, that already takes a quarter of the budget. But then
Uh,
where are the people at? Are they
yes.
online or are they actually going to events?
Mm,
In this world that we're in right now, and it's been like this for years now, people are looking online. So you need to go to where the people are and focus on that for
hmm.
whatever role it is. But you're always good, no matter what website, you're still looking online. In
Hmm.
person, it's just not as productive. That's the 1980s. It worked then. So
Hmm.
you have to pivot and do what works now.
Hmm. All right. So there's one thing that you said that I think we got to dive deeper into because when you mention employee engagement, can you spend a little more time on that? Because
Hmm.
why I'll tell you what I was thinking. What I was thinking when it comes to my business specifically. Again, I have a book that is my latest book is specifically transferring D1, and we hear all about the transfer portal and all the messes causing in college football. So it made sense for me to be at a game, be at an event, talk to the fans, and figure out
Right.
exactly what the issues are. But you're saying now employee engagement is more so online and not actually physical. So can you just, I guess, kind of dive into what you mean when you say
Hmm.
making sure employee engagement when you're spending money on being at a specific thing?
Right. So on the employee engagement side, some have hybrid, some work remotely or come into the office a couple times a week. So you
Yes.
you will have those on in-person events, but don't
Hmm.
forget the people that are remote are fully remote even, because they already feel like, hey, I'm out here by myself and no one cares about me,
Yeah.
and again, making it worthwhile, making it fun. Employee engagement doesn't always have to be, we're going to talk about business and we're going to call this employee engagement. Now, while there
Okay.
should be some conversation, you just have to think differently
Hmm.
when it comes, especially to our online workers, our remote workers, on
Wow.
how we engage them. Mm.
Wow. Okay, Matt. Now you're bringing up something really strong because, all right, so I'll give you this story from yesterday. So before the game, they had this big fun day, right? And there was a girl out there, a company out there. I want to say it's Telltale or something like that. But they had two reps, two ambassadors for the company. They're giving out free products. And one of the products was a hair tie that was also a wristband. She gave me one, and I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to need to here. And at the end of the day, I took it obviously, but and I'll be 100% honest when I say this, it went right into the trash. So
Right.
as I'm thinking now as the entrepreneur, it took money to actually put the budget aside to get these free
Mhm.
samples, to get them the people that actually give it to me, to get them paid, plus what you spent to make the samples. All that stuff is like taking money and throwing it down the tube, especially when
Throw it
you
away.
are not directly. I'm 1,000% sure the founder of the company isn't the person that's out there giving the stuff to the people.
Right.
Now you pretty much just wasted your product and wasted what potentially could have been your profits because you gave it to somebody that clearly doesn't need a damn airtime, but
Right.
somebody was going to
Exactly.
give it to you anyway. So when it comes to finding the right event and aligning it with I guess mixing it with, because there has to be some person to person element, but also understanding what the online aspect to it is. What
Right.
what advice do you give what advice do you give any owners that are faced with this dilemma? Because that's really what it is. It's a dilemma to where the budget is there and the money has to be spent. So it's not one of those things where you have the money there and you just look at it and say, I'm going to save it. No, it's there to be spent on something. And if you make the wrong
Right.
decision, that's your ass. You are either you're going to go out of business or you're going to get fired by your superiors because you basically wasted their profits.
So you think about, it depends industry wise too, right?
Yeah.
But the first thing I would do is ask my people, because if you have a budget, then say, hey, we have X amount of dollars, for the whole year. What are
Mhm.
some things that you would like to do? That's where you're going to have the return on investment.
Mhm.
I've seen people buy books and say, we're going to go through this book together. Well, does everybody like reading? No. So while some people like myself like to read, that's a great thing. I love books.
Mhm.
But to someone else, they're like, yeah, I'm not reading this book. And again, that book is going in the trash. So you
Mhm.
wasted, whatever money that you spent on it, and
Mhm.
you're not going to get that engagement. So ask because it can be done. You can blend people and, different likes. Are you always going to make everybody happy? No, let me say that up front. But
Mhm.
if you ask them their opinion on what they would like to do, they're going to tell you. Even if it's, invest in their learning. Like, for example, they want to get a certificate in something, then either bring somebody in to teach them that or let them take an online course.
Mhm.
So give options. You could have an in-person option and a remote option. So it
All
doesn't
right.
have to be the same thing as well.
So great point when it comes to ask your people, but the question now becomes, who is your people employees, or are you talking about your people as
Yeah,
customers and
employees. Right. I'm talking about
customers?
I'm helping a customer. Like
Mhm.
one of my clients needed the same exact thing. They didn't know what to do. They're a
Mhm.
large hybrid population. And they're like, how do I
Uh,
make everyone happy? Right.
I gotcha. I
And so I'm
gotcha.
helping a client figure out their employee engagement
Right.
budget for the year and how to spend it.
Okay, big point here. Great point. And myself being in education and coming from the fitness and the athletics world, this is where a lot of times we miss the mark because the employees are not something. It's so easy to go out and do your own thing. It's so easy to go out
Mhm.
and be your own entrepreneur while you're working at some school or while you're working at some gym or whatever. But and the actual asking your employees what they want is something that gets lost. And too often do people just focus on what's going to make them the profits, and that creates such a
Right.
saturated market. But what you're saying is to now, if you're an owner, if you're a manager listening to this, is you have to know what your people actually are going to want to go out and do. I have this conversation all the time with a fellow colleague. Is we're trying to start up our own, youth sports program, but the problem is too many other employees, too many other staff members make it sound like it's work. Anything that sounds like work to them, they don't want to do on weekends. But for us, it's
Right.
not work. And when it comes to finding the right event, when you ask your right people, excuse me, when you ask the people the right questions, you're gonna know what every staff member is gonna want to do, and it won't feel like work, and it's gonna feel like a natural connection between
Right.
them and the customer. That's your job, business owner. That's your job, manager. That's your job, the person that's controlling the money. That's your job to make that connection. You cannot expect some, and I'm just kind of going back to what I told you earlier. They must have been like maybe girls in their early 20s, college age girls. They just want to give the product out to anybody, so they come back and say, "Hey,
That's their
I
job.
don't have any more," and that's not their fault. They don't have the experience. They don't know.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to use my common sense and think about, hey, I'm not going to give it to a guy that's going bald. But when it comes to when it comes to what you guys have to do as employees, you got to train your people and you got to know your people.
Yes.
Hmm.
Putting focus groups together. So,
Hmm.
for your
Oh, that's another
example,
good point. Yes.
So putting focus groups together and having other employees ask employees,
Hmm.
sometimes you'll get a better answer and then bring it back and put it together. And then you can present a plan to the
Right.
employees. But for your point with the college girls, their only job, all they could think of, oh, my company's name's on this band. I'm going to give it to you. Whatever you do with it is up to you. But you
Yes.
think about the cost of those things.
Right.
It's still expensive, so make it happen. Do so. They could have done pins, They could have had, they could have had the bracelets. There's going to be women there, but they could have given away pens or a pen and a notebook or a
Mhm.
mug, and you would have kept that pen because we all
Yeah,
need pens, right?
yeah, right.
And so they know what kind of event they're going to. So market to your people, market to your customer.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing money away.
And to that point, let's speak to the actual employees for a second too, the ones that are coming up and I want to take initiative. You got to use your common sense, guys. I'm not going to let these college girls off the hook. All right, if a guy doesn't have hair, then you at least ask the question, hey, maybe you have a girlfriend to give it to, maybe you have your mother to give it to, maybe you at least engage with the individual somewhat, so you find
Yes.
out what the person's all about, and you build these connections and you build this relationship from your standpoint. I used to do it all the time when I worked at the gym. Every time they come in, hey, what you working on today? How was the shoulder workout? They come out, how was the workout? How
Mhm.
was this trainer? How was that? All the things, just giving them the experience, and you have to open your mouth. So when you do that, you actually qualify yourself to figure out what the best event is going to be. That's what
Yes.
actually happens. So you're not, I mean, listen, and it really kind of boils down to, I think we actually discussed this last week, is it really does boil down to communication, and it boils down
It
to
does.
exactly communicating with your people and saying what's going to provide me with the best opportunity for me to succeed. So
Mhm.
that being said, can you kind of speak on maybe some examples or testimonies you may have in which you've done it the right way, just in case anybody's listening, that may be able to take something from it.
Sure. So one of the things that the client that I was talking about wanted to do
Mhm.
was the book thing, which what is why I brought it up. And I'm
Now
like,
she
well, that's
has she has books.
yeah, it
Oh,
was
he.
a gentleman, but he had books and he
Mhm.
wanted to everybody read this book together. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So how many people on your team like to read? And he was like, oh, well, I don't know that. I said, okay. So do you think you should have found that out
Mm.
before you bought the books? Because now you have all these books and how many, if you don't know how many people like to read. Now, can you do that?
Now
Can
he
you
bought the
do
books. He bought the books for the employees before he asked.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Mm.
And so, we went, he's like, you know what? You're right. He goes, so what do I do with the books now? I said, you can still use them, but we're
Mm.
going to find out who likes to read. And then this group of people that likes to read, that's who you're going to give the books to. Now,
Mm.
those that don't, would they be willing to take that same book and make it into like an online training? Would they
Mm.
be willing to do that? I said, but you have to ask them first. So we did exactly that. We put together focus groups, and the employees told them when they came back, there was actually more people who wanted to read, but there was about 20% who didn't want to do it, who did not want to read the book, did not want to do the training, had no interest in it.
Mm.
And you're going to have that. Remember, we talked about the 80-20 rule. You're going to
Okay.
have that, but they have to choose one.
Okay.
Because again, you're not gonna please everyone, and so before you buy anything, invest in anything, make
Mhm.
sure you've done your homework. Make sure however you want to do it, whether it's a focus group, whether it's a
Mhm.
one-on-one conversation.
Yeah. That.
You and I talk about it all the time. You
Mhm.
have to engage. You have to create a relationship with your people because if you don't, they're not going to be open and honest with what they want to do. And
Okay.
so
Well.
engagement is going to be key and actually having a conversation, not a survey.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is huge because we got about 10 minutes left, and we're really gonna have to talk about focus groups for this next 10 minutes. All right, because you mentioned it, and as I'm talking, as I'm thinking that the spending is inevitable. The person who bought the books is not doing it from a bad place. He wants to do what's
No.
best for his company,
Mhm.
and it's not a bad thing. But he can get discouraged when he runs into that roadblock and he runs into that group of people where very few people like to read in general. So it's not like you're doing a bad thing by wanting to get them books. I remember buying and sending off tons of free books to people that they probably didn't even look at it. Some of them just have it for decorations, and feeling
Mhm.
discouraged because again, I wrote it and you feel discouraged. But in general, folks just don't like to read. But when you speak on focus groups, can you just let's park there for a little bit and talk about what goes into it, how you go about finding it, because a focus group doesn't necessarily have to be someone that works for you or someone that's a paying customer. It could just be a group you find on Facebook that relates well to you. Like even today, several people who are yesterday and probably today and tomorrow, I'm going to meet several other podcasters who report strictly on college football, strictly on Michigan, or strictly on Miami Hurricane stuff, and then we can collaborate and we can figure things out. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's working directly under you as a paying customer or client.
Exactly. And that's a great point because one of the podcasts that I've done is the generations in the workforce. And
Hmm.
so I put it out there. I had people that I know that I spoke with about it, but then I put it out on social media, which I'll be doing again soon because it's ever evolving and changing. And I say, hey, if you want to have a conversation about your generation in the workforce, let me know. That
Mm,
quick sentence. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long thing. People want to share information.
right.
Put it out on social media. That's where you're going to find real answers, especially for someone that works for a company. Maybe they're new, maybe they're shy or quiet, and
Yeah.
they're really afraid to give straight talk feedback, right?
Hmm.
And so get those focus groups, whether it's from even the Chamber of Commerce. You can email the members and say, this is the question. This is, what I'm trying to find out in
Hmm.
this area, in the area you're in, or industry that you're in, and say, how do you engage your employees? And let people answer the questions and then follow up with them. Thank them for your time. You can also offer them, hey, if you need this service, it's the service I offer. Give something back too, because you create so many partnerships in your community by doing
Ding, 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 folks. All right.
that.
I believe she said the key word in terms of following up. The fortune, I have a shout out to Dre. He has a episode in the show, a whole series actually, titled "The Fortune is Actually in the Follow Up." And I got a secret
Hmm.
for you guys: you are only going to follow up with people when you truly are passionate about the conversation that you have. Me and her are talking because we were passionate about the actual topic, whether it's HR, whether it's finding professions, whether it's making sure we're serving the business owners every single day. That's what it is. You have to follow up, and you will only do it when you know in your heart the inner work. It's so crazy how we keep coming back to what's working on the inside, what's burning you on
Yes.
the inside, what exactly it that you want. And if it's something you want bad enough, you will call that person 10, 15 times a day in a row to make sure. You will go on
Yep.
whatever group you need to be. If I was to sit there and show you all of the Michigan fan groups I'm a part of on Facebook, all the Washington Redskins / Commander fan groups I'm a part of, you would be like, yo, this dude is committed like a to make sure that people know he's a diehard Commanders and a
Hmm.
diehard. Well, I'm gonna call them Redskins, diehard Redskins and a diehard Michigan Wolverine fan. So I'm constantly in the world of making sure I'm using the game to align it with what it is I'm doing. So
Yep.
the real takeaway is make sure the stuff is actually working on the inside of you, but
Yes.
do not make the mistake that I've made in the past by keeping it on the inside and not figuring out who you can connect with, who you can meet, who you could rub shoulders with, who you can shake hands with that has the same passion. I mean, listen, it's so funny, and I'll close you out. I'll close you guys out with this story because just yesterday, the first fan that I actually met, he's wearing all Iowa State stuff. Everything's Iowa State, but he looks at me, he goes, I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, right? It just so happens my
Yeah.
nephew, my nephew plays for Iowa State, and he's from Florida, and I have to, how to support. So, my nephew, he's getting into that world, and it's like, yeah, I feel you, man. But it's crazy because the game allows for these interactions, and I had the same
Yes.
kind of conversation, exchange contact information, and all this stuff works. I even, like, you guys believe it or not, I even exchanged contact information with an Ohio State fan. He had his Ohio State stuff on. I have my Michigan stuff on. It turned out we have similar backgrounds, and we were kind of working in the same
Hmm.
field. And he'll probably be on the show at some point coming into 2025. So this is all the inner work and the things that you are willing to do. So that's
Yes.
pretty much all I got for the day. If there's anything you want to add, then I'll let you close it out. Great, great,
All right.
great Great job today, man. You brought it as usual, man. Is she not getting better, guys? I mean, she's
That's so much
bringing
better.
it. She is bringing it. She didn't even know the topic until maybe yesterday, or just
Yeah.
now. Now she's ready to roll.
And he's like, "Are you okay? Are you comfortable talking about?" I said, "Son, I'll talk about anything now."
Let's go.
So you see, and that's the thing right there. Just like you do a focus group with your people, you're gonna do a focus group with yourself to get better. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so I just say be authentic. People are drawn to people that are passionate about something and bring their authentic selves to work, to their
Hmm.
project, to whatever you're doing. So no matter what it is, people want that. They want that in a leader. So make sure you're that leader who is driven to succeed, but driven with people, because people will always come first. They will always take care of you if you take care of them. If you need help with that, you can visit Ardent HR Solutions. I'd be happy to help you. Swan, a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. And before I get out of here, let me just send you all over to the Patreon link. Tap into the Patreon. It's as one. It's patreon.com/as144. We have something for everybody, regardless of the budget. Preseason, regular season, postseason. Just tap in there for more information. Everyone out there having an absolutely incredible, incredible new year. Don't make resolutions, make goals, because resolutions end. Do again. I'm
That's
going to
right.
on the record saying, don't make a resolution, make a goal,
Oh,
because resolutions end in sometime in February. Goals are forever and forever and forever. So, all that being said, you guys out there continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
till next time.